All right, greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. How y'all doing? Good to see you. Welcome. We are live on Rockfin, YouTube, and on Callin. Callin is an app where you can listen to the show as a podcast and also call in if you are not familiar. A really good way to support the channel is buymeacoffee.com/blackbearnews. If you drop me a tip during the show, I read a message or acknowledge by the end of the show. Also, Venmo, Cash App, super direct ways to support the channel. There are Black Bear News t-shirts. Those links, all those links are in the description box. And also Rockfin tips and YouTube super chats. Greatly appreciated. Thank you guys. All right. All right. There was a lot of stories that I didn't really cover yesterday. So I'm going to try and get to what I can get to today. There are more heat anomalies coming in at Europe and Asia, showing some early spring heat anomalies. Records of high temperatures are falling by hundreds again from Siberia to Koreas. And it's just the beginning of what is coming in the next 4 to 5 days. Today, 26.8 C at Gangneung. South Korea, 25.7 C at Changjeon. And North Korea, which pulverizes its record for March, obviously. Yes, on another given summer day or something like that, it wouldn't seem like that's hot. That's hot, but it's supposed to be much colder at this time of the year there. So that, hence the anomaly. Please remember to like the video too if you are enjoying the show. Yeah, I missed all kinds of stories yesterday. I didn't even really cover the story that was part of the thumbnail yesterday, so there's that. So we'll try to get to that story too. But more on the heat anomaly. As announced yesterday, today, Morocco really exaggerated 39.8 C at Agadir Airport under harsh, hot wind of Shargoui. It's the highest temperature ever recorded in March at Agadir. Blazing hot also at Taroudant, Tiznit, Guelmin, Marrakesh. Oh, thank you, handy assistant. Delivering some much needed caffeine. All right. Blazing hot, Taroudant, Tiznit, Guelmin, Marrakesh Zag all above 36C, and it can get even hotter. So this is these are anomalies, meaning these are way outside of the norm, or the mean, if you will. Sorry for the ASMR. Let's see. Also in the Canary Islands, breaking temp records. Brutal heat wave in the Canary Islands. That is also happening. Temperatures reached 37.8 C at San Nicolas and 37.5 C at Tenerife, Sierra. 34C also at La Gomera Island. Records were smashed with big margins, and it can get even hotter tomorrow. It's hard to see those little tiny numbers, but some pretty warm temperatures for the region. Just keeping track like we do on a daily basis of weather, heat, weather extremes, heat anomalies, etc. The important thing about looking at data and evidence is that it is really good to try and take your emotions out of it, whether it's you're believing it or disbelieving of it, and just try and look at it for what it is. If you can. What's up, Rockfinners? How y'all doing? I see you on Rockfin hanging out. Thanks for hanging out on Rockfin. You can watch the show for free on Rockfin and no ads. If you want to, you can hang out with the good people of Rockfin too. Please remember to like the video on Rockfin if you're hanging out there. I appreciate it. This is also something I was looking at from yesterday. Donner Pass in California is, I mean, they're just getting walloped. We got another really, we had a little bit of a shorter rain spasm last night, but it was very, very strong, very strong. We had a mighty downpour of rain for, I don't know, a good 6 hours or something, but it seems to have stopped today. Might be coming back later. I don't know. Interstate 80 near Donner Pass, California is chaos due to heavy snow from yet another atmospheric river. The entire area is struggling from broken equipment, snow fatigue, and from running out of room to plow. Yeah, again, we've been talking about the crazy amounts of snow over the regular about the regular average would be like triple. And yeah, you would think, oh, that's great for the drought in California, and it is on some levels, yes, but it's going to present other problems, not just exactly. Kameshwari Kate, you got it. Going south is just metaphorically where we're going. All right. But the snow, all that excess snow is going to bring not as well, it's bringing problems right now. It's bringing some very big problems right now, all that excess snow. It's really upending and disrupting people's lives and creating dangerous situations for people. People have, died because of closed roads and excess snow and weather extremes. People have already died in all of these storms. That's already, so the problems are already here. But when all that snow melts, there's going to be another problem, and that snow will melt. That snow is not going to stay up there all summer. It's just not. We're probably going to have another very warm summer, especially in Northern California. Where does it get super warm in California? In the inland, near the mountains. That's where it gets warm. It's going to get very warm. That snow is going to melt, and that's going to create some other problems. So it's going to be the gift that keeps on giving, I guess. Let's go to what I wanted to cover yesterday, but didn't really get to because I was too busy running on and on about other things. U.S. puts Italy-sized chunk of Gulf of Mexico up for auction for oil drilling. Well, what do you know? In the latest blow to Joe Biden's reputation as a climate president, he doesn't have any, if you think he has a reputation as somebody who cares about the climate, well, just stop being so silly, if that's what you think. But if the evidence, watching what he does and not what he says during his presidency has convinced you that he's not really any different than Donald Trump on climate, other than rhetoric. I don't know. Let me disabuse you of such notions. Reputation as climate president. That was kind of the only reason some people thought they might vote for him, but how wrong they were. An enormous swath of the Gulf of Mexico, spanning an area the size of Italy, was put up for auction on Wednesday for oil and gas drilling. Hey, USA. In the latest blow to Joe Biden's increasingly frayed reputation on dealing with the climate crisis, he's opened up oil fields in Alaska. He's auctioning off the Gulf. What do you got to do? We got to get that oil, right? I mean, to give him a little bit of leeway, I guess. Hard to do anything. In a civilization that absolutely runs. Every last speck of our civilization depends on getting all the oil out of the ground that we could possibly get. There's not much else you can do. Anyways, the president's Department of the Interior offered up a vast area of the central and western Gulf, including plunging deep water reaches. Wow. For drilling projects that will stretch out over decades. Despite scientists' urgent warnings that fossil fuels must be rapidly phased out if the world is to avoid disastrous global heating, the auctions also come despite Biden's own pre-election promise to halt all drilling on federal lands and waters. Total of 313 tracts of ocean spanning 1.6 million acres received high bids during the auction. The administration announced on Wednesday afternoon, got some high bids for this. There were 32 fossil fuel companies involved in the auction. They were lining up. They were like, let's go. Let's get drilling. Collectively bidding $309.7 million for drilling rights. The amount offered by the federal government was much larger than this, however. Wow. The bids will be evaluated by the government in the coming months before leases are issued. In all, 73.3 million acres, an area roughly the size of Italy, was made available to drilling companies, less than a month before the 13th anniversary of the Deepwater Horizon oil spill disaster. So there you go. Auctions come just 2 weeks after Biden's administration approved the controversial Willow project, a drilling endeavor in the remote tundra of Alaska's Arctic that will remove more than 600 million barrels of oil over its lifetime. I like how they use the word remove. Drill, suck up, transport, spill. No, just removing. We're just removing the oil. That's all. We're just moving it from one place to another. We're removing the oil for its own good. Yeah. Anyways. I'm about to finish reading this, though. For the first half of his presidency, Joe Biden led on climate with transformative vision. But that's about all it was vision. But in the second half, he seems to be signaling a disastrous climate U-turn. There's no U-turn. If you're paying attention, he came out of the gate swinging, right? Sending the DHS after the protesters at the Enbridge pipeline, and continuing the drilling leases that Trump had already initiated. Now, he didn't. There was no U-turn. There's no U-turn. He was doing that from the start. It was all rhetoric. It was only a vision, and if you chose to share the vision, then as a delusional person, okay. Anyways, that's about it. What's happening? All right, we talked about that one yesterday. What's going on in Mexico? Well, let's stay with Joe Biden. You know that we're actually trying to pass a bill that would allow the U.S. to send military troops into Mexico. Under the guise of the cartels, the drug cartels, under the guise of corruption, right? The drug cartels have taken over. The government is not doing enough to, it's kind of under the guise of like drug control. So we're trying to actually get a bill passed to send military troops in there under the guise of like bringing people some law and order and some freedom. But there's a whole lot going on in Mexico if you weren't aware. But well, Mexico is feeling a lot like the rest of the world in that they're not so down. They're not super down with the United States of America and the way that they're behaving. And a lot of the rest of the world is going, you know what? We used to really need to be super friendly with you for various reasons, mostly economic, sometimes for protection, right? We have to suck up to you for protection. Like, we're just we're the mafia bosses. And you don't want to piss off the mafia bosses, right? So you play real nice. So, yes, sir. Right away, sir. Whatever you need, sir. How can we help you, sir? But the rest of, the world, several nations have banded together and said, like, you know what? We're thinking about not really taking anything from the mafia bosses anymore. And so a lot of other nations are seeing this and going, you know what? Yeah, exactly. Right on. No, I don't no, we don't want to play this game anymore. These guys come in here, they steal our resources. They come in with a bunch of swagger. They do whatever they want. They pollute, the area. They poison us. And, if we piss them off too much, they might actually just send in the troops to give us the freedom, right? So there's a whole lot going on in Mexico. And on top of all that, Joe Biden has actually carried out much of Trump's policy on the border and on Mexico. There hasn't really been a vast difference, right? In fact, if you were paying attention, Trump deported way less people than Obama did. Obama, who was fondly known as deporter-in-chief. That seems pretty progressive. Trump deported less people, but Biden has continued the pandemic-era deportation tactics. Right? And I talked about this before. How they're just turning people away at the border or just deporting people. Like, if you get across, they're just like, well, we're just going to put you right back where you came from. And often in not so great situations. I know I'm being a little bit roundabout and getting to this next story. And I know there's been another train accident. I'll get to the train accident. I just wanted to talk about the what's going on in Mexico for a second. There's a video going around of deported migrants being burned alive by guards, or left to burn alive. This is a U.S.-backed detention center in Mexico. This video shows these people being left to burn alive by the guards. I'm not really sure what the context was. Maybe they'll... well, let's find the context, shall we? There was a fire at a migrant center in Mexico near U.S. border, and it killed 38 people. And the guards just let them, they didn't try to get them out. They just let them die. It's pretty horrific. At least 38 dead in a fire at a migrant center in Mexico. Jesus. Okay, already. Jeez. I don't really care. Authorities lowered the death toll on Thursday from 40 to 38 following visits to the hospital across Ciudad Juarez, where victims of the fire had been taken. Authorities on Tuesday believe the fire was caused by a protest initiated by some of the migrants detained at the center after we think they found out they'd be deported. Mexican President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador said. Based on initial reports, migrants put small mattresses at the door of the shelter and set them on fire as a form of protest. Lopez Obrador said in a news conference Tuesday morning they didn't imagine this would cause this misfortune. Anthony Gonzalez, a Venezuelan migrant who was held at the facility last week after U.S. authorities sent him back to Mexico, told Noticias Telemundo he finds it hard to believe migrants could have started the fire because they are being held behind padlocked doors and they take everything from you before entering. Very interesting. The fire began after 9 p.m. Monday. He said it's like a jail. Began after 9 p.m. Monday at a migration center run by the National Migration Institute in Ciudad Juarez. The agency said in a statement the migrants at the facility had been detained by authorities. The institute did not immediately reveal the cause of the fire. It said that it strongly rejects the acts that led to this tragedy, without elaborating on what they might be. Dozens more were injured. According to the country's prosecutor general, which has opened an investigation, 28 of the dead were Guatemalans, 13 were Hondurans, 12 Salvadorians, 12 Venezuelans, and a Colombian and Ecuadorian were among the 68 people affected by the blaze. That's horrific. Anyway, so the video shows the guards just leaving them in there while the fire was going. So that's pretty horrific. The fire is going, and it looks like they're like trying to they're saying, "Hey, let us out of here," or whatever. And they just left them in there. And just to continue on with this, so Biden deported these people and sent them to their deaths, burning alive while caged like animals, even though they had valid work permits. So there's a lot of, this story is unfolding with, there are quite a few wrinkles in this story, and it's unfolding. Authorities inside the center told some of the detained migrants they were being deported, even though many of them had temporary work permits that are renewed every month. The migrants said they were told such permits would be taken away from them. So there's that. And you probably won't hear anything about this on more liberal media, right? Or from the liberals. You won't hear anything. You won't hear AOC talking about what a tragedy this is. Probably not. But there are also other things afoot in Mexico. We're staying with Mexico. Mexico has formally applied for BRICS membership, along with about 12 other countries, such as Saudi Arabia, UAE, Nigeria, etc. So there's that, right? So meanwhile for the context, right? We're passing this law we're trying to pass a resolution that will allow us to send military troops into Mexico for various reasons. And here's some other context for this, all this going on.
But how many countries have sent you the
Sorry. So Mexico has applied for BRICS membership. And the U.S. is threatening Mexico with tariffs in an attempt to force it to privatize its energy sector. Mexico's President AMLO unprivatized the oil industry and nationalized Lithium. Washington wants to force Mexico to open its markets or face tariffs. Oh. Oh. This is from a few days ago. So this is pretty wild. They want to force Mexico to privatize their oil industry. They don't like what Mexico is doing. Mexico has applied for membership of BRICS. They're nationalizing their oil industry and their lithium. The U.S. is unhappy. They're like, you know what? We need a resolution to send military troops into Mexico. What's the reason? Oh, they're drugs or something. Oh, I see. The Biden administration plans to send Mexico an act now or else message in the coming weeks. An attempt to break a stalemate in an energy trade dispute as bipartisan calls grow for the U.S. to get tougher with its southern neighbor. Tougher, according to people familiar with the discussions. Oh, how tough do you want to get? How tough you want to? We told you. Never go against the cartel. No, not that cartel. Not your cartel. This cartel. The U.S. cartel. The move would represent a significant escalation in already strained tensions between U.S. President Joe Biden and his Mexican counterpart, AMLO. Obrador's decision to roll back reforms aimed at opening Mexico's power and oil markets to outside competitors sparked the trade dispute. The Office of the United States Trade Representative is expected to make what was described as a final offer to Mexico negotiators. I love this language. To open its markets and agree to some increased oversight. What? 3 people familiar with the talks told Reuters. If not, the U.S. will request an independent dispute settlement panel under the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, or USMCA, they said. Oh. This sounds like what they wanted to do with TPP. Remember the TPP? Actually, Trump struck it down. Okay, good for Trump, because he struck that down. That was a bad deal. That was a bad deal for many people. But you have this other USMCA thing, and you also have like a Indo-Pacific, like a Asian American like trade treaty that is in place too. But the thing that people had a problem with TPP was that if it was basically giving multinational corporations jurisdiction over other countries, right? They had more power. This international treaty would have given multinational corporations more power than sovereign states. And if they could go to independent panels, and they would have an independent judiciary. And if they could prove that you're like, let's say Argentina or someplace like nationalized any industry that they had, right, and kicked out the corporations from operating in their country. If the corporations could prove that they could claim we lost billions of dollars because of your decision. This international like court could hold the country liable for this lost, recoup the lost profits, right? And so it sounds like that's kind of what the U.S. is trying to do. Like, oh, we're gonna, you privatized your oil industry and your lithium mines, and we want access to that, so we're going to take you to court because we're losing out. This is craziness. Yeah, the U.S. is a big bad bully. And we don't. The rules don't apply to us. We can do whatever we want. The international rules don't apply to us. We can do whatever we want. We can use the rules when they benefit us, and we can flaunt the rules when it benefits us. So basically, it's a win-win, or benefit for us. It's always a win-win for us. But I don't know how much longer that's going to go on, because it seems like it seems like people are kind of like, you know, countries around the world are like, you know what? Nah. Even Saudi Arabia. You heard that Russia negotiated a peace treaty between Saudi Arabia and Syria? There's a lot of undermining of what, you know, has traditionally been the US getting their way. And that is, it looks like that might be coming to an end unless we just go full berserk, right? Full on berserk. And, you know, unless we throw a tantrum, a toddler tantrum, and just start, you know, trying to blow up everybody. Well, you're not doing what we want. We hate you, China and Russia, and we're gonna start blowing you up. You know, and there's a possibility because the psychopaths that run the place are psychopaths, and what are psychopaths? They're generally children, you know, emotional children stuck inside grown adult bodies. And you can, you know, and anything can happen, right? If you understand that you're dealing with an emotionally a child, they will blow things up, even if it hurts them, even if it hurts the people they love, even if it hurts all of their interests. They'll blow things up because it's tantrum time. That's not good for people who aren't any part of that equation. That would be you and me and anybody else. But let's look at this from Obrador. Strongly worded speech. Mexico is not a colony of the USA. Powerful speech by President AMLO on the 85th anniversary of the nationalization of oil. Last month, he nationalized lithium, and the U.S. has been threatening him and Mexico. America wanted to destabilize Russia using Ukraine. But look what's happening in U.S.'s own backyard. Cooperation, yes. Submission, no. Mexican President Obrador. Viva Mexico, viva oil nationalization. Hope Mexico can join the BRICS. That's pretty strongly worded speech. All right. Okay, I'm going to take this call. This is Johnny. What's up, Johnny? Hopefully I can hear you. You're muted, man. Oh, hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Let me get you in here. All right. For some reason, give me 1 second, Johnny.
Sure.
My connection has gone very bad.
Sure.
Okay, all right. I think I can hear you. What you got?
Okay, just a brief comment. You know how the United States thought that it could sanction Russia by creating an economic crisis and upheaval?
Yes.
And hoping that they could overthrow the government?
Yes.
Could you imagine the people here in America getting together somehow in a similar way to overthrow not necessarily the government, not even those in power, but rather the ideology that's behind those in power?
Yeah.
Can you imagine something like that? Do you think?
I can't imagine it because people are so numbed out
Right.
and complacent.
Right. But do you think, and last comment here, do you think that if it could happen, would it accomplish that it'll tell America, those leaders, the psychopaths, to start behaving themselves, to start acting decent? if it could happen. You think that'd be enough? You know what I mean?
I mean, okay, well, so I don't have high hopes for it happening until things get bad enough for people to go, okay, right? Because people, the system here, it actually does work for a lot of people, right?
Yep.
And all the people that the system works for are really invested in the system, and they, they're the ones that see any kind of protesters, anybody out there as just being very scary,
Well,
and right, like,
I'm
and so.
losing you there.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I'm losing you there. I don't know if it's me or you. Probably me.
I don't know.
There you go.
I'm just saying.
All right. But you said.
But let's say things deteriorate to the point where there's widespread massive protests like here, like there is in France. I mean, I
Right.
think I think we are definitely seeing a global, populist upheaval against whatever you want to call it, neoliberalism or the the WEF agenda or whatever it's called, the
Right.
kind of global totalitarianism that they're trying to like push in, and I think the people in charge better be careful, because they if you keep going thinking that you're gonna be victorious in whatever you do, kind of like what we're doing with whatever we're doing, Ukraine or China or like we're or the Middle East, right? We just absolutely assume like we can dominate and exert our will on everybody. I just we're getting into starting to get into fantasy land, and you can kind of see the writing on the wall. The rest of the world is kind of going, well, it might be time to push back on all of this. And if the people, you throw the people into that mix, the people of this country into the mix, and then they're going to start to have a hard time controlling everything, right? Because what if the armed forces or the cops or the firefighter, I see cops laying down their helmets in France, and the firefighters are fighting the cops in France, right? If you have just people that are part of the nuts and bolts of everything that makes things run, right? If you have everybody just sitting out for a couple days or weeks, right, and saying like that's it. I mean, we have a lot of power. We have all the power. We could really cripple, everything that's going on. We could really just, and if you start getting people in the military, bowing out, then what do you have? You don't really have much.
Yeah.
And you're left in a situation where you're either gonna be really stupid and reckless and combative, or you're gonna just, or they're gonna have to go. They're gonna have to resign. I don't see how you can actually reform the people that are in power now. I think you're gonna have to like force them out. That force them all out, and that includes the Republican and the Democratic Party, right? Force them all out. They are all, they are all corrupted. They are all. You're gonna just have to say like, we need new leaders, a new party. We're gonna do this all over again. I don't know.
All right. Well, thanks for your comments.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for the call. Appreciate you. If it gets there, and maybe it will. I mean, Roger Hallam is saying like the only way you're going to address climate collapse is with a revolution. And I the only way you're going to solve anything is that way, and I'm sorry to say that. I wish it weren't so. I'm not like, yeah, this is going to be great. No, that's actually very, very scary. It's a very scary position for people to be put in, and to for things to come to. But I want things to go. I want things to be resolved. Normally. I want things to be resolved peacefully. I want things to be resolved with, votes and people getting out and making a statement. No, we don't want that anymore. We want this. But they're not listening to that. We're either we're going to have to talk a lot louder, we're going to have to shout a lot louder, or something else. I don't know what. But better start getting out there and shouting. All right. We're almost at the end of the show. This has gone by really, really fast. Already. We've got a couple more minutes. Again, great way to support the show. buymeacoffee.com/BlackBearNews. Rockfin tips are great. Super chats. Appreciate the super chats. And you know all the links and everything. Oh, you can also support me at Patreon/BlackBearNews. And thank you all my Patreon subscribers. I appreciate you. All right. Anyways, I wanted to get to that bit of, what's going on in Mexico. Because not a lot of people are talking about what's going on with Mexico. What's happening with Mexico? There's a lot happening between the U.S. and Mexico that, probably it's not on people's radar. And if you take, if you zoom out and take the macro in, you have to understand, like, you can kind of see a picture. You can kind of see things taking shape on a global level. You can see that people are seeing things for what they are. And so, as much as people fear change, and change is scary and uncomfortable, it's probably time for a change. More evidence that things are changing. China and Brazil have reached a deal to trade in their own currencies, ditching the U.S. dollar as an intermediary. The Brazilian government said on Wednesday, Beijing's latest salvo against the almighty greenback. And we have China striking a peace deal between Saudi Arabia and Iran. We have Saudi Arabia discussing the idea of settling oil transactions in yuan, Chinese yuan. How's that for the end of the petrodollar? These are major things, right? These are major events that are happening, whether you want to pay attention to them or not. And I didn't get to the oil spill. Well, let's do this real quick. There has been another train derailment in Minnesota. Sorry for bringing this in at the end of the show, but there was an evacuation order issued for Raymond City, Minnesota, following a significant derailment of multiple BNS. Oh, here we go. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, guys. Oh. My stream seems to be very jittery. Oh, that's weird. Man, I really don't like that. I'm not going to even tell you what that is, but one of the derailed cars carrying ethanol has ignited and subsequently exploded, prompting Immediate and critical action. Residents residing within a half-mile radius of the derailment site have been directed to vacate their homes promptly. The other cars were carrying liquid corn syrup. So that is frightening. And in other news along the same vein, Acadia Water has recalled gallon bottles of bottled water because the water is sourced from the area around the toxic train derailment in Ohio. They what? But didn't you know that you were bottling this water from the area around the toxic train derailment? I mean, wouldn't you? I have questions about this story. Anyways, Stop and Shop stores in New Jersey are pulling some bottles of water from shelves. 1-gallon bottles of Acadia spring water are being pulled because it's sourced from a bottling facility near the site of the toxic train derailment in Ohio. The company says other sizes of Acadia water are produced at a different location. Interestingly, in a statement, Stop and Shop said in part, the water quality is being tested regularly by our supplier, and if these tests continue to demonstrate there are no safety concerns as they have thus far, we will return the product to our shelves for sale. It sounds like they realized where this water was being bottled from, and they were like, hold on, let's test this water. That's what it sounds like. So it sounds like the company itself, Acadia Water, was like, let's keep selling the bottled water, even though it's coming from the area around the train derailment. Maybe nobody will notice. That's what it sounds like. So, to all the people that are like, we can't drink the water because it's contaminated from our taps. Let's go get some bottled water. Well, where's your bottled water coming from? Do you test your bottled water? Do you even know what the quality of that is? Maybe you should. Maybe you should. I mean, long ago there was a story about some bottled water companies just filling bottles out of a tap from wherever they were, just filling bottles out of a tap and selling it as purified water. I mean, these companies, we've lost the parameters of being able to regulate these companies correctly. Obviously, we have train derailments every day, and food distribution fires, and supply chain issues, and things are just breaking down, right? And nobody seems to be at the helm, or it seems like those things are kind of breaking down, right? The ability to implement some kind of safety controls seems to be breaking down somewhat. So, I don't know. Who can you trust, really? Yeah. Shouldn't even be drinking bottled water anyways. Should be protecting the lakes and the rivers and the streams and the sources of our water right from the get-go, not allowing them to be contaminated or toxified. We should be giving people the cleanest possible tap water so that they don't have to go to the store and buy bottled drinking water and contaminating the planet with plastic bottles. Blah, 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 blah. Right? On multiple levels, the entire system is wrong, wrong, wrong. You shouldn't have to go every home be supplied with a water distiller for $100. I mean, it's a cool idea, but I mean the necessity for that shouldn't even be there, right? If we're talking about getting to the root of the problem, that's a fine idea, but that's an idea that says well, you can't trust any source of water, so everybody just get their own distiller, and good luck to you all. That shouldn't be the answer. That's kind of well, everybody has a gun. We're so worried about people coming and shooting up the place. We got to put a gun. We have to have teachers wearing guns on their hips and holsters. Like that's kind of like a sick. It's like the sickest answer to a sick society, right? I don't know. And I'm not even really on the side of like gun control necessarily. I'm just, I'm just saying that the root of the problem is somewhere else. If you're at the point where you're like, well, teachers need to carry guns into the classroom, well then that answer is ridiculous. Then you live in a very sick society if that's your answer. And and no offense to the caller that brought it up the other day. I mean, sure, but if the answer is giving everybody $100 water distiller, we live in a very sick world. If that's the answer, everybody needs their own water distiller. We're screwed. We're screwed if that's the answer. Anyways. All right, guys. That does it for me today. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. I will be back tomorrow at the regular time of 12 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And until next time, peace.